I forecast a rising rate of commercial military integration in satellite services. I forecast that we're going to have more media, and I don't just mean in your life on your iPod or your iPad. I mean in your business. I mean in the work you do. Whether you know it or not, Ka-band is your future. If you don't know what Ka-band is, I will illuminate you. You probably do, however. And I can tell you it's going to be an increasing part of what you do via satellite. And finally, the idea that compression, which is all about getting more through that satellite circuit, compression ultimately doesn't have any boundaries. And I know if there is a physicist or an engineer, a RF engineer out there, they're going to disagree with me, as well they should. There is a limit. It's called the Shannon limit, but we're finding it increasingly less important. So let's talk about commercial military integration. The military is a very large customer for the commercial satellite business. In fact, the U.S. Department of Defense is the single largest buyer of capacity on the planet, and which is really great, having one customer that's, it's large. And the second largest one on the planet is a company that sells services directly to the U.S. military. So it's big. It's big. In fact, it's so big that 80% of all the satellite traffic that is generated, at least in the United States, that is by the military, goes over commercial satellite, which sounds fine. And I'm going to guess that a very similar pattern is true here and in many other places. The military builds its own satellites, it flies its own satellites, it conducts missions with those satellites, but there's just too much going on here for it to fit in those birds. Here's the problem. The problem is that the government in most places is not like a commercial customer. They have very specific procurement regulations. They can sometimes only buy for limited periods of time. Even though they know they're going to need hundreds of megabits of transmission capacity, they can't commit for it today because they ultimately answer to us, the taxpayers. And that has had the effect of limiting the ability of the military to get great value out of satellite. I mean, they use it, they get value out of it, but not as much as they could get. And I think that's going to change. I think that's going to change. It's been talked about for a long time, and like many things that we talk about, we think it will never get here. But it is going to change because it has to. There's a famous economist who said, if something really cannot keep going on, it won't. When, we don't know, but it won't. So I forecast that you're going to see a rising level of integration of the military. I should put it a different way. We're going to see the military becoming a much smarter buyer of satellite because they're going to be forced to. Not that they're stupid about it. They know what they should be doing, but the rules are the rules. We're going to see those rules begin to evolve because the demand for this capacity is literally limitless as near as we can tell. Modern militaries have realized the unbelievable asymmetric advantage that these kinds of technologies provide them, whether it's in gathering surveillance and intelligence from the field or projecting force, supporting the projection of force, or literally projecting force remotely, of which the UAV, the robot plane, is the most obvious example right now, but there's a lot more technologies behind it. That's going to drive this kind of thing. And that's going to be good news, I think, for everybody, because the taxpayer ultimately will get better value, and the companies that do business with the government are going to find that they're able to deliver greater value. Next forecast, more media. This photograph shows you an American baseball game taking place on somebody's iPad in the background with their iPhone, with their computer, with their big screen TV showing the same image. We just at WTA put out a report called Future TV and the Teleport, which gave me the opportunity to explore this, and it's really quite interesting. TV is undergoing an unbelievable revolution. We now, of course, want catch-up TV. We want TV on any device, anytime, anywhere we want. If we subscribe to a particular service, we want to be able to receive that where we want it, when we want it. And they're all complying. They're all working really hard. Broadcasters, content owners are working really hard to make that happen. The existing players, the cable television, direct-to-home, over-the-air television, are all maneuvering like mad to try to figure out how they can make money in this brave new world. So it's very challenging for them. But for the service providers, it is fantastic. Because guess who has to make that content go anywhere, anytime, in any format? So this is a real, the members of our association who are in this marketplace are really excited about the future, and they are investing huge sums of money in the systems that make it possible. And this is where the story ties back to this day and this audience, because I am convinced that all that investment in handling media is going to become a huge asset for customers in all sectors, because media is driving everything. One of the largest buyers of video, one of the largest users of video is the military, because it's so information rich. Well, the ability to use these commercial capabilities is going to be a big, and important development, I think, for government, military, for enterprise. They don't have to build it themselves. It's going to be there, and that's great news. Number three, I should say, Ka-band is in your future. Ka-band is the latest satellite frequency we're going to all be using, or we're all going to be commercializing, I should say. It's a higher frequency, which means by the laws of physics you can ram more stuff through it. And there is currently about $5 billion of Ka-band assets going into space, starting in 2007 through 2014. And that's not counting NewSat's own bird, so it's continuing to accelerate. And each of these spacecraft, and I know all this, by the way, because a year ago WCA published this study, Ka-band and the teleport. The KA-SAT birds that are going up, generally speaking, each have more bandwidth capacity on them than the entire orbital arc today. So you're talking about an unbelievable bonanza of bandwidth in space. Now, it's not all good news. It's not a cornucopia, because being of higher frequency, those of you who are in the control room hearing about the issue of rain fade, bigger issue in Ka-band. So it's not expected to be as reliable. Very, very cheap, but not as reliable. So all the business plans in Ka-band call for internet access. And it's really exciting, because for the first time in history, it looks as though satellite is going to have a commercial offer of 5-6 megabits per second, a strong broadband offer at a pretty close to a commercial rate, the kind of competitive rate for the terrestrial world. So very exciting. And so all these companies are all targeting that internet user, the small office, home office. There's 2 projects over the US. There's multiple projects over Australia. There's several projects over Europe. But here's the thing. They all have the same business plan. And if I learned anything from the dot-com era, it's that when everyone has the same business plan, you might want to start worrying. So I believe personally that not all of that capacity is going to get soaked up by the internet users. It's going to start splashing over into other markets. It's going to splash over into traditional VSAT business. It's going to splash over into television, into a lot of businesses, which will create challenges inside the industry. But for the customer, what a bonanza. What a bonanza. Because you have a future possibility now of hybrid services, meaning Ka and something. If I need higher reliability than Ka gives me, fine, I'm going to have a Ka-Ku hybrid. And there's companies right now working on making that a commercial and easy and straightforward endeavor. That's really powerful. And it opens up this enormous world of additional bandwidth while maintaining the reliability that satellite is famous for. Last forecast. Compression without bounds. We keep thinking that there's only so much we can ram through that certain number of megahertz, as it's called. How many bits can we get through that hertz is what engineers say. And yet, we just keep taking leaps. Higher order modulation, as it's called. We keep being able to get more and more through it. I've got a member who thinks it's really not that hard to run 145 megabits per second through a single transponder. He's doing it all the time for people. He says, I don't know why people talk about this as being hard. It's easy. Okay. Satellite will always be bandwidth constrained compared to point-to-point fiber, but the high cost of those megahertz, which is what supports the satellite industry and is no doubt very important to the business plan of NewSat, is increasingly going to become less important because we're all going to be managing that bandwidth. And again, I'm coming back now to the commercial business. Commercial business is developing unbelievable expertise at running managed services through that core satellite bandwidth. And what that means is that they can just wring every possible ounce of economic value out of it. And again, for the customers, that's incredibly powerful. Just to sum up, I mean, I'm forecasting bravely, which it's easy to make brave forecasts because people don't remember them. Because of managed services, you're going to be getting, there's ultimately going to be not very much practical limit to how many bits you can cram through those hertz. Because you're going to have hybrid services delivering so much more bandwidth and yet maintaining the reliability for which a satellite is famous, because you're going to have service providers doing all this investment in the systems to run those managed services, to distribute media and everything else more efficiently. That's why you're going to be seeing ultimately this smarter, this tighter integration with government and military getting ever higher value out of this business. So I think it's a pretty good looking future. If you ask my wife, you'll know that I'm not necessarily the biggest optimist in the world, but I think this is something that we can all be very, very optimistic about. So thank you very much.